EW. Don't touch me with those dirty hands. Do you know how much this suit costs? The tall white man shouted loud enough for everyone at the hotel entrance to hear. His voice cracked like a whip. He yanked his foot back as if the little black woman had poured mud on it. She was kneeling in front of him, holding a worn-out brush, her trembling hands paused mid-motion. Her name was Tasha, and she had been shining shoes outside the fancy Beaumont Grand Hotel for the past 4 years. The rich man looked down at her with disgust in his eyes. You think someone like you should even be near someone like me? He sneered, brushing invisible dust off his polished blazer. I should call security to clean up this mess. A group of hotel guests turned to stare. Some whispered. A few looked shocked, but none stepped in. Tasha's cheeks burned with shame. She lowered her head, blinking away tears. Then, the unthinkable happened. The man kicked over her shoe polish box, scattering brushes, cloths, and tins across the sidewalk. Pick up your trash, street rat. He spat, then laughed coldly as he walked away. But what the rude rich man didn't know was someone had seen everything. And not just anyone. Someone inside the hotel. Someone who mattered. Someone who was already making a call. It hadn't always been like this for Tasha. Back before her life turned upside down, she was just a small-town girl from Georgia. She grew up in a place where the grass grew high and the roads cracked in the summer heat. Her mama used to say, "Baby, you gotta make your own sunshine." And Tasha tried. She really did. When her mother passed away, Tasha was only 16. There wasn't much left, just an old Bible, a picture of her mama holding her as a baby, and a pair of worn black shoes her mama always polished on Sundays. That's when she came to the city. She thought it would be different. She thought there'd be more kindness, more hope. But jobs were hard to find. Apartments were expensive. And Tasha, young and black, quickly learned that not everyone wanted to give her a chance. She slept in shelters for a while, then in her car when she managed to get one. She lost the car 6 months later. She tried working at a diner but was fired after a week when a customer complained about her attitude. The truth? She had asked the man not to touch her hair. It was a cold night when she found a beat-up shoe shine box behind a dumpster. Someone had thrown it away. Inside, there were brushes, rags, and 3 tins of polish, black, brown, and clear. Tasha remembered watching her mama shine shoes every Sunday after church. It was a quiet kind of love, how she cared for those old shoes. So Tasha started doing it too. At first, she offered free shines just to get people to stop. Then slowly, some of the hotel guests, mostly businessmen, started paying her. Some gave her $5. Some gave 10. A few didn't give anything at all. But it helped her eat. It helped her survive. Every morning, she arrived at the Beaumont Grand before sunrise and set up her little spot near the gold-plated revolving doors. She never went inside. She wasn't allowed to. But she could sit near the edge of the sidewalk, just far enough not to get in trouble. It was an ordinary Tuesday when the rude rich man first showed up. He stepped out of a black town car, wearing a navy blue suit that probably cost more than Tasha's whole year. His watch sparkled in the sun. His shoes were scuffed. Tasha smiled softly. "Good morning, sir. Would you like a shine?" He didn't even look at her. Just stepped past, nose in the air. She figured he was just another cold businessman. It happened all the time. But then came Thursday. That was the day. He came out of the hotel, on the phone, yelling at someone. Tasha waited until he finished his call. Then, gently, kindly, she tried again. "Sir, your shoes, if you want. I could polish them for you." That's when it all exploded. That's when he screamed at her, insulted her, mocked her. That's when he kicked her box. Her hands were shaking as she picked up the spilled tins. One had rolled into the street. A car ran over it, spraying black polish like ink across the concrete. A bellhop from the hotel froze at the door, watching. The rude rich man disappeared into a waiting car. Tasha's knees hurt. Her pride hurt worse. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that someone inside the hotel had seen the whole thing. And they weren't going to let it go. The sun was starting to dip when Tasha gathered the last of her things. She hadn't made a single dollar that day. Her jacket was too thin for the cold. She reached into her pocket for a granola bar she'd saved from yesterday. It was squished, but still edible. As she stood, her back stiff, a voice behind her spoke. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She turned. A young woman stood there in a hotel uniform. Her name tag read Maya. Tasha tried to smile. "Yes, I'm fine. Just tired." Maya looked like she didn't believe her. "I saw what happened. That man, He was awful. Tasha shrugged. You get used to it. No, you shouldn't have to. There was something in Maya's eyes, something more than pity, something sharper. Tasha nodded and turned away, expecting the conversation to end. But Maya didn't walk off. I'm really sorry, ma'am, she said again. You don't deserve that. Then she did something surprising. She bent down and helped Tasha gather the last of her polished tins. Tasha blinked. No one had done that before. Not once. Thank you, she whispered. Maya smiled, stood up, and walked back into the hotel. Tasha watched her go. She had no idea that Maya wasn't just some hotel worker. She had no idea who Maya's mother was. She had no idea what was already being planned. 2 days passed. Tasha didn't see the rude rich man again. But the other workers at the hotel began treating her differently. The security guard who usually ignored her now nodded politely. A concierge gave her a cup of hot cocoa without saying a word. Even the doorman, who had never said more than step back, now greeted her each morning with, Good morning, Miss Tasha. She didn't understand. She thought maybe they felt guilty. Maybe they were just having a good day. She didn't know that behind those marble walls, something was brewing. She didn't know that someone important had just found out what happened. But she was about to find out. Because on the third day, something happened that changed everything. A long black car pulled up again. But this time, it wasn't the rude rich man who stepped out. It was someone else. Someone powerful. And they were looking straight at Tasha. The car door opened slowly, and out stepped a tall woman in a red coat. She wore dark glasses, sharp heels, and her black hair was tied back in a tight bun. She didn't smile. She didn't look around. She walked straight toward Tasha. At first, Tasha froze. She clutched her polished box tighter and lowered her eyes. The woman stopped right in front of her. You're Tasha, aren't you? Tasha looked up slowly. Yes, ma'am. The woman reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a card. It was thick and white, with gold edges. My name is Simone James. I'm the general manager of the Beaumont Grand. Tasha's throat went dry. No one from inside the hotel had ever spoken to her like this. Simone continued, her voice calm but firm. I know what happened the other day. With Mr. Langston. Tasha blinked. You do? Simone nodded. We have eyes. And ears. And we take behavior like that very seriously. Tasha was silent, unsure what to say. Simone leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. I'd like to invite you inside. Just for a moment. There's something I want to discuss. Tasha's heart started to race. Inside, she whispered. But I'm not allowed. I'm in charge, Simone said, offering a small smile. So if I say you're allowed, then you're allowed. It didn't feel real. Tasha had looked at those golden doors for years and never dreamed of going past them. Now, here she was, walking through them, shaking, nervous, unsure. The lobby was like something out of a movie. Crystal chandeliers, polished floors, soft piano music floating through the air. People stared as she walked past, following Simone. Tasha didn't know where to look. She could feel her shoes squeak on the clean floor. She wished she had washed her jacket that week. They entered Simone's office, which smelled like leather and fresh flowers. A silver nameplate sat on the desk. Simone gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Tasha sat carefully, gripping the edge of the seat. Simone sat across from her and folded her hands. I know this is unexpected, but I want to be clear with you. We at the Beaumont Grand believe in dignity. We believe in respect. That man, Mr. Langston, he broke every rule of basic decency. Tasha's eyes welled up again. I didn't mean to cause trouble, she said softly. You didn't, Simone replied. He did. There was a silence. A heavy one. Then Simone leaned back. But here's the thing, Tasha. There's something else you need to know. Something about Mr. Langston. Tasha tilted her head. Simone paused for a long second, then said nothing more about it. Instead, she stood. I'd like to offer you something. A temporary position inside the hotel, helping with shoe care for guests. We'll provide the supplies. A uniform. A paycheck. Tasha gasped. Inside? You mean, work here? Here. Simone smiled. Of course. Why not? You've already been doing the work. We just think it's time you were treated right for it. Tasha covered her mouth. No one had ever said something like that to her before. No one had looked at her like she belonged. She nodded quickly, tears falling. Thank you, she whispered. You start tomorrow, Simone said. Maya will help you get everything you need. Tasha left the office in a daze. The same workers who once ignored her now smiled as she passed. She caught a glimpse of Maya near the front desk. She winked and gave Tasha a thumbs up. Tasha barely made it to the sidewalk before breaking down crying. Good tears this time. But happiness never seemed to last long for her. And it didn't this time, either. The next day, Tasha arrived early, her new uniform pressed and neat. She had butterflies in her stomach as Maya led her through the service hallway to the staff locker room. The workers welcomed her, some with smiles, some with quiet nods. She got her own locker, her own name badge. She couldn't stop staring at it. Tasha Wells, shoe care specialist. It didn't sound fancy, but to her, it sounded like the world. She started her shift polishing shoes for guests who left them outside their rooms. She worked quietly, quickly. Word spread fast. People liked her work. She didn't speak much, but her hands spoke with care. Then came the afternoon. She was polishing a pair of leather loafers behind the scenes when Maya rushed in, her face pale. "Tasha," she said, out of breath, "he's back." Tasha blinked. "Who?" "Mr. Langston." Everything inside Tasha went cold. "Is he back?" she asked, barely able to breathe. "No idea," Maya said, looking around nervously. "But I heard something. Staff are whispering." "About what?" Maya lowered her voice. "They say he's not just rich. He's a partner in the Beaumont Grand. A major investor." Tasha felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. "He owns part of the hotel?" she whispered. Maya nodded. "That's what they're saying." Tasha sat down slowly. If that was true, then everything could change. Could he fire her? Could he get her thrown out? Would Simone still support her? Would anyone? Maya reached out and held her hand. "I've got your back," she said. But fear was already growing inside Tasha like a weed. Then came the knock. It was one of the bellboys. Mr. Langston just asked for a shoe shine in the private suite. He specifically asked for Tasha Wells. Tasha's heart nearly stopped. "What should I do?" she whispered. Maya looked at her with steady eyes. "You go? Head high. You go." Tasha stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking again. She gathered her tools, wiped her palms on her apron, and followed the bellboy through the twisting halls of the Beaumont Grand. Each step felt heavier than the last. When they reached the top floor, the bellboy stepped aside and opened the suite door. Tasha walked in. There he was, sitting on a couch, looking at her, smiling. The same man who kicked her box. The same man who called her trash. He crossed his legs and patted his shoe. Well, he said smoothly. "Look who made it inside." Tasha stared at him, holding her polished box tight. And then, he closed the door. The door clicked shut behind her with a soft but heavy sound. Tasha froze. Her heart thundered in her ears. Mr. Langston sat on the edge of a leather couch, wearing the same smug expression as the day he kicked her box into the street. His suit was a deep charcoal gray this time, his tie pin gleaming under the golden lights of the suite. "Come on now," he said, motioning to his shoes. "Let's not waste time. You work here now, don't you? Show me what you've got." Tasha didn't move. Her hands clutched the shoe polish box tighter. "Is there a problem?" he said, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Or are you just going to stand there like a statue?" Tasha swallowed hard. You asked for me?" He chuckled. "Of course I did. I believe in second chances. I thought it would be poetic." She didn't respond. Every part of her wanted to scream, to throw the polish at him, to storm out. But Simone's voice echoed in her mind. "We believe in dignity." Tasha knelt down slowly. Her knees touched the soft carpet. She set her box beside his shiny leather shoes, opened the lid, and began her work. She didn't look up. Not once. He leaned forward, watching her closely. "You've got quite the little hustle now," he said quietly. "Funny how people in this country always try to climb up from the bottom." Tasha ignored him. He went on. "But I've learned something," he said. "No matter how high people like you climb, you're still just crawling. You never really belong in places like this. You know that, don't you?" Tasha's hand paused mid-brush. Her head stayed down, but her jaw clenched. He leaned in a little more. "I could end this for you, you know," he whispered. "With one phone call. You'd be back on the street tomorrow." Tasha stood up. She stared at him, her fingers still stained with polish. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then she said, "Then go ahead. Make the call." His smirk faltered. She continued, voice shaking but strong. "I've been spit on, ignored, laughed at, but I still get up. Every day. So if you think you scare me, you don't. You're just another man in a fancy suit. And I've seen what's under that polish before." Mr. Langston's eyes narrowed. "You better watch your tone." Tasha took a step closer. You better watch yours, she said. He stood up too, his face twitching with anger. But just as he opened his mouth to respond, a knock sounded at the door. They both turned. The door opened before either of them could speak. It was Simone, and she wasn't alone. Behind her stood another woman. Older, tall, with silver hair, a sharp jaw, and eyes like ice. Her black suit looked expensive, but not flashy. She wore no name tag. Everyone in the hallway moved out of her way like water parting around a rock. Simone stepped aside. Mr. Langston, she said politely. Ms. Whitmore would like a word with you. Mr. Langston's face changed immediately. He stiffened. Ms. Whitmore. Of course, I wasn't expecting you so soon. Tasha stepped back, unsure what was happening. Ms. Whitmore looked straight past Mr. Langston. At Tasha. You must be Miss Wells, she said calmly. Tasha nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. You're doing excellent work here, Ms. Whitmore said. Thank you for your service. Tasha blinked, stunned. Simone stepped in again. Mr. Langston, we'll need to speak privately. In the boardroom. He tried to argue. But this isn't the right. Now, Ms. Whitmore said simply. Mr. Langston's mouth opened, then closed. He followed them out of the suite without another word. The door shut behind them, leaving Tasha standing there alone, shaking, confused. She had no idea what just happened. No idea who Ms. Whitmore really was. And no idea what was being said about her in that boardroom. Hours passed. Tasha tried to return to her shift, but her mind was spinning. The workers looked at her differently now. Some smiled, some whispered. A few nodded with something close to respect. By evening, Maya caught her in the hallway and pulled her aside. Girl, Maya whispered. Do you know who that was? Tasha shook her head. No clue. That was Vanessa Whitmore. She owns 40% of the Beaumont Grand. She's the real boss around here. Tasha's mouth dropped open. And she knew my name? She whispered. She more than knew it, Maya said. She's been asking about you. I heard from the concierge that she made a special trip back from Chicago just because of what happened. Tasha felt like she was floating. Maya grabbed her arms. You think you're just some shoe shiner? Tasha, you're turning this whole place upside down. They both laughed, nervous, shocked laughter. But then, the intercom buzzed. Tasha Wells to the executive office, please. Ms. Whitmore would like to see you. Tasha stopped laughing. Her mouth went dry. Maya's eyes widened. Girl, go. Don't keep a queen waiting. Tasha smoothed her apron, adjusted her name tag, and took the elevator to the top floor. The doors opened to a quiet hallway. She knocked softly on the grand wooden door. Come in, a voice said. Inside, Ms. Whitmore stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. Have a seat, she said, not turning around. Tasha sat slowly, heart pounding. Ms. Whitmore finally turned. Miss Wells, she said, her voice even. I've reviewed everything. The reports, the camera footage, the interviews. Tasha blinked. You interviewed people? I believe in facts, Ms. Whitmore replied. And the facts say that you were wronged. Deeply, publicly. Tasha looked down. But, Ms. Whitmore continued, what impressed me most was not your patience. It was your pride. You stood your ground today. Tasha said nothing. Her throat was tight. Ms. Whitmore walked closer. I've made a decision. Tasha looked up. We're promoting you, she said. Tasha's eyes widened. You will manage the new Hospitality Shine service. A proper department. You'll have a team, a budget, training, and a real office. Tasha stared at her in stunned silence. But, I've never even managed anything before, she whispered. You managed to hold your dignity when most people would have broken, Ms. Whitmore said. That's all the management I need to see. Tasha felt hot tears running down her cheeks. Ms. Whitmore handed her a folder. Your title will be Director of Guest Footwear Services. Tasha laughed through her tears. That sounds so fancy. You've earned it, Ms. Whitmore said. But before the moment could settle, the phone on Ms. Whitmore's desk rang. She picked it up, her face darkening as she listened. Then she hung up, slowly. Her jaw tightened. What is it? Tasha asked. Ms. Whitmore turned to her with cold fire in her eyes. Mr. Langston just tried to fire you through the board. Tasha's breath caught. He made some calls, Ms. Whitmore said. Claimed you were a security risk. That you threatened him. He's trying to cover himself. To bury what he did. Tasha shook her head in disbelief. But, Ms. Whitmore added, he doesn't know what I know. And he doesn't know that someone much closer than he realizes, has been watching him for weeks. Tasha stared at her, confused. What do you mean? Ms. Whitmore gave her a small smile. Oh, she said softly. He's going to regret everything. The next morning, the entire staff at the Beaumont Grand buzzed with whispers and wide eyes. Something had changed. There were rumors, hushed conversations in the service halls. Someone said a board meeting had been called in the middle of the night. Someone else said Mr. Langston had been escorted out of the hotel before sunrise. But no one could confirm anything. Tasha came in wearing her new uniform, sleek, navy blue with a gold-stitched name badge that now read, Tasha Wells, Director of Guest Footwear Services. She felt the eyes on her, the stares. But this time, it wasn't judgment. It was respect. Simone met her at the entrance with a warm smile and a small clipboard. Ready for your first team briefing, Director Wells? Tasha nodded, still not used to the sound of that title. They walked through the lobby together, side by side. Tasha's old spot outside the revolving doors was now empty, with a small velvet rope placed where her polish box once sat. Inside, in the lower level of the hotel, a room had been turned into a cozy workshop. 3 young staff members waited there, 2 men and a woman, all freshly trained. They looked at Tasha with wide, eager eyes. She cleared her throat and gave them a nervous smile. Good morning, she began. I used to sit outside those doors for 4 years. I know what it's like to be ignored, but not anymore. We're going to polish more than shoes in here. We're going to polish pride, respect, dignity, and no one is going to take that from us again. They clapped, not loud, but real. Tasha's smile grew as she picked up her brush and handed it to one of them. Let's get to work. Later that day, Maya ran up to her with a phone in hand. You have to see this, she said, breathless. Tasha leaned in. It was a video, grainy, from someone's phone. Mr. Langston, red in the face, was yelling at someone in a boardroom. You can't do this to me, he shouted. Do you know who I am? The voice of Ms. Whitmore answered calmly from off-screen. Yes, and that's exactly why we're doing this. The video cut there. Tasha's mouth dropped open. Who recorded this? She asked. Maya grinned. Does it matter? It's already online. Over 500,000 views and counting. By evening, news stories started popping up. Hotel investor fired after racist outburst caught on camera. Woman once mocked on street becomes director at 5-star hotel. Justice served at the Beaumont Grand. Tasha sat alone in the break room, her phone buzzing nonstop. A message from an old friend. A message from a local news station asking for an interview. And then, a call from a number she didn't know. She answered carefully. Hello. A gentle voice replied. Miss Wells? My name is Lorraine Hughes. I run a foundation that helps train young women of color in business and leadership. I just saw your story. I think our girls would love to meet you. Tasha blinked. You mean, like a speaker or something? Like a hero, Lorraine replied. Tasha hung up, stunned. She looked around the quiet room, her polish box now sitting proudly on a shelf behind her like a trophy. This was her life now. And it wasn't just survival. It was success. A week later, Tasha stood outside the hotel in the early morning light. Not as a shoe shiner, but as a leader. She wore a clean blazer, a fresh press in her hair, and a pair of her mother's old shoes, polished to perfection. A young girl walked by with her mother, pointing at Tasha and whispering, That's her. That's the lady from the video. Tasha crouched down and smiled at the girl. Hi there. The girl grinned shyly. Tasha reached into her bag and handed her a little brush keychain. Keep this. And remember, you're never too small to stand tall. The girl hugged her tight. Tasha stood up again, wiping a tear. The revolving doors behind her spun open. Out walked Ms. Whitmore, her face calm and proud. Tasha, she said softly, there's a charity event next week. I want you to represent the Beaumont Grand. Tasha smiled. Of course, ma'am. Call me Vanessa, Ms. Whitmore said, extending her hand. They shook hands, not as employee and owner, but as equals. That night, Tasha walked home under the streetlights, her steps slow and sure. She passed by the alley where she once found her shoe polish box. It was still there, empty now, quiet. She knelt down, ran her hand along the cracked concrete, and whispered, Thank you, Mama. Then she stood and walked into her future, stronger, prouder, unstoppable.